Happy weekend, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy, Tyler. We're out here for another Sims 4 speed build, and I am really hyped about this one. Today we are building the little secret cottage from Howl's Moving Castle. I hope you've all seen Howl's Moving Castle. Truly extraordinary movie. Absolutely beautiful. If you haven't seen it, it's about like a young girl who works at a hat shop who gets cursed by a witch, and she becomes an old lady, and then she kind of goes on this big adventure with this like spellcaster sort of magic dude named Howl, who has a castle that walks, and it's like sort of, you know, it's got these like gears and steam engines, and it's powered by like a living fire, and it's a Miyazaki movie. Really beautiful, really wonderful. I've seen it a couple times. My boyfriend and I have watched it a bunch of times, but almost every single time, except for the last time, which was a couple weeks ago, I've fallen asleep. It's not a boring movie. It's really not a boring movie. I'm just very good at falling asleep during movies. It's one of my best skills. And also B, we watched it like 2 a.m. every time after ordering like takeout, and we like stuff ourselves full of noodles, and then I pass out. Like, obviously. It's just so wonderful. Oh my god, it's so lovely. I hope you guys all watch it sometime. I hope this build inspires you all to watch it. But in the movie, Hal, the sort of spellcaster, he's very secretive, has a lot of secrets, and he has this sort of like little hideaway cottage in the middle of this field of flowers. It's absolutely beautiful. Here's a picture of it, in case you haven't seen it. And it's like where he hides, you know, when he wants to be alone. And so that's what I decided to build here in Glimmerbrook. Yes, this is a Realm of Magic build. And I had a lot of fun with this one. I went to town with these debug objects. You will see all the debug objects I use all over this place, left and right. Yeah, I seriously, I work it with these debug objects. The house is built, as always, I built it for a particular sim. You know, this one wasn't as, you know, exciting because it's just a character from the movie. Her name is Sophie. She is like the girl who gets transformed into an old lady, and goes on the adventure with Howl. And yeah, this is what she looks like. She's just like, she's very soft-spoken, kind of shy but determined. She works at a hat shop, which is why her last name is Hatter, and why she's wearing this giant fun floppy hat, and this sort of like blue dress. Usually, I mean, in the movie, it's like a lot more simple. It's just like an apron. And she has this really beautiful long braid that I wish I could get, but I don't have any objects like that in Create a Sim, unfortunately. So this is the best I could do, but I think she looks pretty great. She looks lovely. And yeah, this house does qualify as a small house if you have Tiny Living. I didn't use any of the objects from Tiny Living, so it shouldn't, you know, you can download it from the game even if you don't have Tiny Living, but it does qualify as a small house. It is like 68 tiles or something like that. I could have brought it down to 64, but it wouldn't have looked exactly like it does in the movie, and that's not what I wanted. The goal here was not to make a tiny house, it was to make the house from the movie, which just happens to be very tiny. The house from the movie is also exceptionally boring. You'll have seen it in that screenshot I just showed you. There's nothing. It's just a box with a roof. There's even less adornment on the outside of the house than I put in this actual build. Like those things on the corners, the flower pot, the little like flower bed. What do you call those? Flower beds? Flower things that you put under the windowsill. If you know what they're called, let me know. Those aren't even in the movie. Like, this house is just very plain, so I had to doll it up like the tiniest bit, but it is basically just a box with a green roof, and it's just surrounded by plants. So the real like showcase of this lot is going to be the flowers. This lot is so colorful. In the movie, it is just in this field surrounded by flowers. I put a couple trees just to add a little bit more, you know, a little bit more, a few more like levels, you know, to the landscaping, but it's gorgeous, and it's surrounded by all these different color flowers. I had so much fun just pouring through the debug plants and just putting every single different type of flower that they even have in all different colors. It was fun to just make this build like look super natural and overgrown and colorful and beautiful, and I just loved it. Another reason that this is very exciting for me is because I hope you noticed, I hope it makes a difference, I have upgraded all of my PC parts. If you follow me on Twitter, which you should do, by the way, @SmoTyler, check it out. I tweet semi-regularly. You will have seen that I upgraded all my PC parts. I got a new processor. I got some new RAM. I got a new motherboard because my old motherboard would not have been compatible with my old processor and my old RAM. And also because I might have busted one of the RAM slots on my old one. So this time I got a motherboard with 4 RAM slots, just in case that happens again. My brother gave me his old graphics card, which is better than my old graphics card. So basically, I'm running like a whole new PC right here. I got a new power supply like 2 weeks ago. The only thing that has stayed from my old PC is this is the optical drive, the disk drive, which is like whatever, and my hard drive, and the case, and one of the fans. But everything else is brand new, super new hardware. I'm really, really excited about it. I booted up this game and cranked the settings up to ultra, and it runs so smoothly. It's so beautiful. So this slot I think is really, it's really exciting for me to share with you guys because I get to sort of showcase all new power that my computer has now, because there are so many objects on this slot with so much color. I really hope you guys are able to see the sort of like upgrade that I did last week, but through all the color and all of the just through the graphics, and I want you to see how smoothly it runs. I'm just excited to show it off. I like working on my computer, even though it makes me really anxious, because I'm afraid I'm gonna touch something and then everything will short circuit. And yeah, I had to have my brother help because I was afraid of installing the processor, pushing the little metal arm down too hard. I'm afraid of applying too much force. I don't know my own strength, I gotta be careful. These are delicate PC parts. They're strong, but delicate. Anyway, so I just rambled through basically the entirety of what I was building. So let me tell you a little bit about this build. The outside, what do you call that? Little patio deck type thing. It has in the movie, there's a little area that the water runs through that goes under it. I couldn't actually do that if, without sort of limiting that area to your Sims, making it impossible for them to walk on it. And also I would have to sort of cover the entire thing in a debug flooring type thing, whatever. So I didn't do that, but I did want to include a sort of little archway. So I managed to do that by taking those sort of long stone debug fences and sizing them down all the way, and then stacking them up along the edges of that sort of, foundation deck type thing. So it looks like it is built of stone, and it has all these little fine, mold, wood, stone molding type things. And that way I could also insert this bridge that I sized down really small, and use that as sort of the little, it's not a sewer, it's it's a little round divot covering thing. I wish I could explain this better. I wish I knew anything about how to describe this thing, but that thing under, under the deck, right there, under those plants, under the, the black fencing thing, that thing right there, that's what I'm talking about. I took a bunch of debug objects, sized them all down, stacked them up to sort of line the edge of the foundation, and sort of make a custom foundation, what's the word, texture. Yeah, and I'm actually really, really pleased with the way that turned out. I think it looks really lovely. It took me a while. It was quite a work to sort of size down all those fences and raise them up and push them up against the foundation, but I think it looks really, really nice. And it looks natural, which I'm very pleased about. And then the big star of this build, obviously because the house is 20 tiles and it's a box, is the landscaping. And the landscaping was just so fun to do in this build. I just really, really went crazy with all of the plants. I tried to make it look as natural as possible, so I sort of just let it guide me. If I put down a plant and I liked where it went, I might put some other ones next to it, and it would sort of naturally grow. And so there are these little corners in it. There's that one little section of plants in front of that big tree up in this sort of top, that corner right there, that sort of just kind of grew on its own out of a couple plants that I put. And I liked sort of making this an organic, overgrown thing. And I got to use just about every single flower and plant that's even in base game and Realm of Magic. It was just so fun. I could use all my favorite flowers. That one flower right there, that sort of white yellow one with the sort of dark green mossy texture under it, that one is my absolute favorite. I got to use that. I got to just use all of these fun colorful trees that I never would have used. Yeah, it was just a blast to go through and kind of run with it with every single plant in this entire game. And I'm just really, really pleased with the way it turned out. I think it's so lovely and so like serene. And yeah, it's wonderful. There's not really a lot of like activities for your Sims to be doing here because it is just sort of, it's a meadow essentially. But I did put like a little fishing thing because I thought it'd be fun to let your Sims fish. And yeah, I mean, you could put some benches out there. I'm not really sure what your Sims can even really do outside. If you want to plant some trees and have them go gardening, that could be nice. But yeah, it's just supposed to be like a nice, beautiful, overgrown meadow. You see what I'm doing now here? I finally installed the tool mod for the first time, which is okay, exciting and also a little stressful because I did not know how to use it, and it took me a really long time to figure out how. But you see what I'm doing now is I'm building the sort of water wheel. Is that what you call that? A water wheel? I don't even know. You see that I just fast forward. I skipped through the entire construction of the water wheel because it took me about like an hour of real time building to just rotate all of those objects. But what you saw me do at the beginning when you saw me sort of futzing around with the tool mod is just taking a couple of debug wooden planks, rotating them on various axes to get them to sort of line up in the way that I wanted to, and then I used those shelves, the sort of like dark wood shelves, as the sort of the paddles on the wheel. And then I just sort of lined them up and you know, made my own sort of custom water wheel. It was such a trial because I would like rotate the shelves, but then they would snap to the wall of the pool that makes up the sort of like pond, and then they would snap to the wall of the house, and I would like lose the sort of reorientation that I had done with the tool mod, and then I would have to like yeah, I would have to like, you know, undo and go back and undo and go back, and so it really took me a really long time. But I think it was worth it. I think it's really lovely, this little water wheel. I mean, obviously it doesn't move. And I do add some more like a sort of like a wheel around all the spokes to sort of round it out, which you'll see later on in the screenshots. Oh, but it's so lovely. It's so nice. And just absolutely wonderful and so pretty and serene, and oh my god, it's so nice. I think all the time about like, what would I do if I lived in a place like this? Just like in the flowers, chilling. Oh my god, it's beautiful. So yeah, I am really, really happy with the way this sort of whole exterior of this house turned out. It was definitely a bit of a challenge though, mostly because just in the movie it is so plain, and sort of, you know, what really is the star of the show, just as it is in this build, but in the movie is the meadow around it. So I wanted to make it, I sort of struggled a little bit in making it look like a place you might actually want to live or actually want to download in your game. Because it is so plain, you know, and I didn't want it to seem like boring, you know, the house itself, which was tough because it is so plain. And obviously the landscaping around it takes, you know, sort of precedence, but you know, the house is important too. Now you see I'm starting to work on the interior. Tiny house, very small. But so I had to sort of work with what I had. I skipped through the floor plan because it took me a little while to figure out where I wanted that bathroom to be. I sort of put it in basically every corner of the house in every orientation you could before settling on it. But yeah, this is sort of what I decided to go with. And the little bedroom area is meant to be this sort of like closed off. I put some curtains up so you can close the curtains and sort of like be in your own little space. And then the little bed and some shelves and a bunch of like paintings and photographs and books all over the place, and candles. Yeah, I put a bunch of candles. I wanted this place to be very warm, and you know, in the movie it sort of serves as Howl's like sanctuary. Howl is someone who has a lot of like issues with self-esteem, and it gets very stressed out all the time, and sort of like has to save the world constantly, and is sort of like the defender of, you know, sort of like the world from the sort of like other, you know, dimension of magic and stuff that people don't really necessarily encounter all the time, and so he needs a sanctuary. And so I wanted this place to be really warm, and just be like a place where someone can chill out and, you know, put down all of their worries and just be like in this really gorgeous and like glorious nature, and most importantly, be alone. This build is all about just like solitude, and not in like a lonely way, in like a nice way, you know, in like purposeful, meaningful solitude. I struggled a little bit with coming up with a color scheme for this build, because I wanted it to be like sort of rustic, and if you've seen any Miyazaki movies, you'll know that they have like all of the sort of like locations in the movies are really, really like cluttered. They're so cramped, and there's just like stuff all over the place, on like every single surface, hanging from the ceiling and on every like square inch of wall space, and that's sort of what I wanted to emulate for this build. But I did struggle a little bit finding a nice color scheme to match it, because like I needed something to tie it all together, because otherwise it would just look so messy. So I drew inspiration from Sophie's character and her clothes, and she wears this big sort of like blue dress and a white apron and this floppy hat with like a red ribbon. So I sort of went with this blue, bright blue and red sort of texture all over sort of like some of the furnishings. So the rug and the little like the curtains, and that's sort of what I went with. You'll notice one of the decoration objects that I put up on the wall is that sort of like hat and coat hanger, and the coat on it is blue, and the hat is like straw, and it has a red like band around it, which is like exactly what Sophie's character in the movie wears. I was so excited to put this little like decoration bit up on the wall, because it literally looks like it was made for this character. Like she just walked in the house and put up her clothes, like took off her like overcoat, and it is perfect. I was like, I saw it and I was like, this is it. Like this is perfect. I did use some magic items from Realm of Magic in this house. The reason that I picked Realm of Magic as the expansion pack that I would use, or no, game pack that I would use when building this build, because I do single pack builds. And so I picked Realm of Magic for this one, A, because Howl is like a sorcerer, he's magic. But B, because I think that like the sort of, what's the word? The like aesthetic of the pack is very like rustic and like colorful, but also sort of demure and just full of like all these fun clutter objects and old-timey. And I mean, I know they have like a lot of like Art Nouveau pieces too, but on one hand, but I think the sort of like rustic and wood tones and the plants and the dried herbs and the potions and all that kind of stuff, the pots with like the things floating in them, and I thought they all matched really, really nicely with the sort of aesthetic of the movie. In Howl's Castle, in the sort of main room of Howl's Castle, is this big like furnace with this living fire that speaks, and there are books all over the place, and like the lots of and there's some like plants and potions and magic-y stuff. And so yeah, so if you wanted to have a spellcaster live in this house, like Howl, who is a spellcaster, you could, because it is fully stocked with all your magical needs. There's no cauldron. There's no space in this thing for a cauldron. But there is like, I put like a wand out there, and I put all the potions up on the sort of the shelving in the kitchen. And yeah, I think it just is really, really lovely, and it's a cute little like sanctuary, and I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm really very happy with it. Now you see I'm just moving on to the bathroom. Super simple bathroom. Just like obviously there isn't like a lot of space for anything else, but I have the tub with the shower and the little toilet and with the wood like seat, which I thought was cute. I always forget. I forgot to play test this build again. I think that toilet should work. Sometimes I find that if you put things on that side of the bathtub, your Sims aren't able to use them, but I think I moved the toilet far enough. But yeah, that's about it for this build. It's a quick one. Hope you guys had fun watching it. Of course, always like and subscribe. Comment for anything that you want to see me do in the next couple of builds. Follow me on Twitter. And I hope you all stay safe and have a great day. Peace out.